Now, the time is 8:39. The number of pupils not attending school is on the rise in England. Absences were 50% higher in the past academic year than before the pandemic, with 1 in 5 persistently absent. Mental health support is one issue that's playing a big part, according to some parents, and the author Heidi Mavir has first-hand experience with struggling to find support for her son, and she joins me now. Good evening, Heidi.
Hi, Kate. How are you?
Really well. Thanks for joining us. Tell us about your son's experience then and yours as a parent trying to navigate.
So we hit a period of difficulty before lockdown, actually, when my son was 15. He'd been in school and he'd been doing okay. And he went from being able to attend fully and having a really good attendance record to not being able to be in school at all over the period of about 6 weeks. And then crashed out of school completely. And what followed was almost 2.5 years of me trying to get him the support that he needed to be back in school, and a really difficult time for us as a family.
And how did the school support you during this?
So we didn't have any support when we started. There were lots of conversations about it must be something going on at home. There were kind of veiled accusations of neglect and abuse. We were questioned about our parenting style. It was queried whether perhaps the fact that I was a single parent might be a factor. And I had to fight really hard to have conversations about actually the problem is not what's happening at home. The problem is what's happening within school, and the fact that he's not supported. Since that time, we've had a diagnosis of autism and ADHD, and we know that it was because he wasn't recognised as being a child with special educational needs, and that the school setting was not suitable for him. But we faced a lot of parental blame. We were threatened with fines and prosecution. We were reported to social services. I was sent on parenting courses. It was pretty traumatic.
Goodness me. I've heard of so many cases of kids who cannot, for a variety of reasons, whether it's that they're not getting the support with their learning, or they have specific needs, or that they are suffering with mental health issues and anxiety. I've kind of heard of all of those reasons, but it takes it to another extreme when you as the parent are not supported. You're faced with fines and prosecution and social services and parenting courses. It feels like a very extreme reaction, and it also feels like the wrong use of resource, Heidi.
Yeah, absolutely. And the pathway for persistent absenteeism across the country is to firmly place that responsibility at the feet of parents in the first instance. I run an online community. We have 10,000 families in that community. And I would say 99% of them have been offered a parenting course because their children cannot attend school. The level of parental blame has been reported on by disabilities charities. It's been reported by the PDA Society, the Pathological Demand Avoidance Society, who have a large membership. And the difficulty with us seeing parents and carers blamed for the fact their children cannot attend school is it's a crisis across the country, and it's something I see and hear every single day.
Yeah, so you run EOTAS Matters to kind of support families with the same challenges as you. So you have a very broad picture, it's fair to say, Heidi, when we're looking at what families are going through at the moment. Is there, by and large, any recognition that this is a big issue and it's potentially getting bigger, but also that there might need to be some sort of dedicated resource or some dedicated work to this? I think schools operate on quite an individual level sometimes, and a school will say to you, even if they've had, even if CAMS, the local child and adult mental health services, has said to them, you need to support this child more, the school may just say, we can't do any more. We haven't got any more resource to support this child anymore. Or we've got this child and we've got 10 others, and we've got such a complex set of situations now. We don't have any more resource for you.
Yeah. I mean, the question about whether it's being recognised as an issue, it absolutely is. And attendance is at the middle and at the front of lots of conversations in the halls of power currently. There is new government guidance around attendance, and local authorities are now tasked with having an attendance procedure and attendance policy in place. The difficulty is how that guidance is applied is that increasingly we are seeing that school leaders are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They don't have the resources. School leaders and staff in classrooms are not well equipped or trained or skilled enough in the particular areas that we're facing, which for my community predominantly is children with special educational needs. And so we are seeing that the policies and the strategies put in place at local authority level are focused on what can we get this family to do to get this child into school. And so it's the kind of, guess, the outcome that they're looking for is good attendance at all costs. And so we have people in our community, and it's a bit of a running joke within our community. I write about it in the book, that we were invited to come and touch the gate of school as a means to reduce the anxiety that my son felt around being in school. The idea being that if you can touch the gate, he can then go into the school setting. Not the same thing at all. Unless that gate is magical, that made no difference. But we see this on the daily. I've had a message from a parent tonight saying, well, it's finally happened. Someone's just suggested that I touch the gate. And actually,
so this is basically schools. Sorry to butt in. This is schools saying that the child is on the school property, on school campus,
because if you have a child
they can be marked in.
If you go into a school grounds and you touch the gate, the child can be marked as present in school. You can then take that child home and they don't show as an absence mark. Ofsted, when we're assessing schools, they will look at attendance, and if a school does not have over a certain level of attendance, they won't get an outstanding rating.
That is utterly bonkers. That's utterly bonkers. So, schools are trying not to have awful attendance rates, but they're struggling to be able to deal with this, and they're obviously manipulating the system to that point. I was reading some research last week. 1 in 10 GCSE year pupils have been absent from school in England each day this year, up 70% since before the COVID pandemic. If you look at that GCSE year as well, they are, one of those years that, 2 years ago would have been in the midst of the sort of pandemic, really. They are hugely affected by that. We're obviously talking about this because we need to highlight it, but I think it's probably worth... Oh, she dropped off the line. Oh, there we go. At that pivotal point. It's just, some of the figures here are astounding, aren't they, really? And I think we need to accept that this is a huge issue, and one that's perhaps not being got to grips with. Let's have a little look at some reaction from you, just while we try and get Heidi back on the line if we can. Some get the book thrown at them, says this texter, unfairly, and yet some have absolutely nothing happened to them, even when their child has been absent from school for 2 years. So a real difference in how schools and education authorities are dealing with this. This is from working class single parents are targeted the worst, says that texter. Heidi's back with us. Heidi, what do we need to start seeing? I mean, look, I haven't got a magic money tree, but there must be some way within the school system that sort of makes sense when we talk about identifying this as an issue and how schools can start to get to grips with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to see some joined up working across the education sector and working with parents and families and beginning to understand what's actually going on within the school settings. We have some incredible individuals working within the education sector who are really committed to doing the absolute best for children and young people, but their hands are tied because the guidance isn't clear enough, and the funding isn't in place and the resources aren't in place. So I think what we really need is we need conversations, honest conversations about how we support our children and young people and their mental health, and how we move away from this attendance at all costs and move towards actually we must prioritise the well-being of our children in school first and foremost. And if that means attendance is down, then that means attendance is down. Is it right that mental health issues are not recognised as authorised absences? So there's DfE guidance, Department for Education guidance, that says that school leaders, and ultimately it's principals and head teachers who have the discretion on how they decide to authorise or not authorise absences. And the guidance is clear from the DfE that unless there is reason to believe that the child is not unwell, a child's absence should be coded under Code I for illness, and that would include mental health. There is a move within our sector to try and have a mental health code, illness code introduced that would mean that we could then track that data, because
so you can identify how many kids are off for physical illness and how many kids are off for mental illness.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, look, there is no magic solution to this, I know, but we do want to keep talking about it, and we do want to keep talking about the crisis that is going on in mental health, particularly for our children, and we'll keep doing that on the evening edition, and we'll do it and we'll highlight as many different ways of talking about it as possible. Heidi, do keep us posted with your work, please. We'd like to keep a cross